Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. We have a fairly full house. It's great to see everyone here. Before we begin the evening meeting, let me first mention that we have Member Gallo, who is either on the line and participating from Tallahassee, or will be on the line very shortly, but she should be with us for the duration of the meeting. And I'm going to ask if you would like to join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, Republic, one nation, under God, indivisible.
All right, this evening we're recognizing some outstanding athletes from the winter season. To bring us up to speed on the highlights, can Senior Administrator over Athletics and Activities, Doug Patterson, join us? Mr. Patterson, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Chair Jacobs, school board members, and Superintendent Jenkins. The winter season was very successful for our female sports teams. From competitive cheer to wrestling, we have a group of incredible athletes to be recognized tonight. To begin, we'd like to congratulate Ocoee High School's competitive cheerleading for their state championship title in the small non-tumbling division. Coach Kristen Johnson is here to introduce the team.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. I'd first like to introduce you to the athletes who were able to make it tonight. Unfortunately, some had to work. They work in the off season, which I think is phenomenal. So we have Miss Michaela Garber, Brianna Smith, Alana Taylor, Emily Dobson, Zaria Williams, Janice White, Alexis Codwell, Chloe Bowler, Kayla Quinn, and Charnel O'Neill.
Awesome.
Couple words about these wonderful young ladies. Not only are they amazing on the mat, but off the mat. We have an overall GPA on our competition team of 3.9 cumulative, which is amazing. My seniors are headed off to college very shortly at the end of the season. This season did not come without obstacles for us to overcome, but no matter what, these athletes rallied together. They created a really great bond and sisterhood, and they never let it get them down. This is our first year in the small non-tumbling division, so to be able to bring home that state championship was pretty incredible for us and our school. So I think they're amazing, and we can't wait to see what next season brings. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Johnson. Congratulations, girls. Dr. Phillips High School competitive cheer also brought home the state title in the small division. Coach Samantha Hoffman is here with her squad.
Thank you also for having us and honoring these incredible athletes. On our team here today, we have Bianca Velez, Kaylee. I can't even see them. Sorry. Lauren, Zoe, sorry, Megan. Got Naya, Janae, sorry, Haley, Miranda, Jillian. Am I missing anybody that's Veronica? Ariana, I am so sorry. Thank you so much for being here.
Why don't you all stand at one time, just so we can see everybody.
So at the beginning of the year, we talked about what our goals were going to be, and the main goal, of course, was we want to win a state title. So I said, okay, everybody wants to win a state title, but how are we going to actually make this happen? We can't just say we want something. You got to show and prove how you're going to actually obtain this. And the girls said, we need to be consistent. It was something that we lacked the last few years. And I said, okay, so consistency is going to be the one thing that we work on this year. How are we going to make that happen? And they said, we've got to work extra hard, which means extra practices. And as everybody knows, cheerleading season runs through Thanksgiving, Christmas, all your holidays. And You know, we miss time with our families to have extra practices. And I've never seen a more determined group of girls who were so driven that even when we didn't have practice on specific days, they were in the gym working on their tumbling. They were getting together with their stunt groups, working on everything. And this year was the most consistent year that we've had in my 15 years of coaching. And they won a state title for being consistent. Congratulations, ladies. And real quick, I have to thank the other coaches. I do have to thank all of the parents who also missed a lot of family events and holidays to make sure that they were at all the practices. And thank you so much to Steve and Dr. Knight, because without the most supportive school administrative, without you guys, no athletic program is going to be successful. So thank you.
Congratulations to Dr. Phillips and the cheerleading team. And last group of girls we'd like to recognize tonight is the Dr. Phillips wrestlers. Coach Kerwin Adelaide is here with his state title winners as well. Coach?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the board, Dr. Knight, Steve, for all the support. We're making this almost an annual thing, which is kind of good for us. This is our 4th consecutive title, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce the people that actually won the title. We have Sinai, Julia, and Juliana, sorry. Who's that? Muling, Leah, Francesca, Guy, Zamor, and Armel. And we had, as team champions, we were team champions, and we also had 3 individual champions. Armel was an individual champion. Juliana was an individual champion. And Jessica, she had to go to a doctor's appointment, so she said she would get here around like 5:40. She won her 2nd title, and Jessica is the #1 recruit in the country at her weight for a 101-pound weight class. Quick thing on the team, we always try to keep it as family first, take care of each other, and we were able to do that. This team, a lot of new faces. We lost 9 graduating seniors last year. 50% of the team was brand new, and we still were able to come back and win our 4th consecutive state championship. So I'm really proud of the girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach, and congratulations, girls. Girls wrestling is not a recognized FHSAA sport yet, but it's very well represented here in Orange County Public Schools. OCPS looks forward to the sport's continued growth in the day, hopefully next year, when girls wrestling is a recognized sport by the FHSAA. While I'm here, I would also like to recognize a couple of other schools for their winter accomplishments. In cheerleading, finishing up as runner-ups, Winter Park High School and Windermere High School. Boys soccer, state runner-up, Boone High School. We had 3 girls basketball teams make it to the Final Four, Jones High School and Timber Creek High School, with Wekiva High School finishing as the state runner-up. And lastly, for the 2nd time in 3 years, Oak Ridge High School made it to the Final Four as well. So that wraps up the winter season. Look forward to having us back hopefully in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. So we had all of the athletes stand. Can you all stand one more time so we can recognize all of you together as a group? All right, and then let me also ask, I'm sure we have some parents that came today to celebrate their youth, and their kids would not be where they are today without that support. How about our parents that are in the room with our kids? Can you all stand so we can also recognize you? All right, well, thank you. We are celebrating in several proclamations this evening. I am so sorry. Sorry, Vice Chair Gould.
I just wanted to congratulate all the young ladies, but I also wanted to point out from a Girl Power board on the accomplishments that you all make. I want you to take notice that we each pay it forward for each other and hopefully you, and it sounds like because of the repetition that is happening and the building and scaling on your programs, you're all paying it forward for the generations behind you too, so way to go.
All right, the proclamations we're celebrating this evening. We will be celebrating next month the proclamation as April as Autism Awareness Month in Orange County Public Schools. And Orange County Public Schools does an incredible job of working with our young children with autism. So it's one of those things I'm extremely proud joining this district to see the great work that's taking place there. We will be proclaiming April 12th through April 18th, 2020 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Orange County Public Schools, and proclaiming April 1st, 2020 as National Census Month. But before we go on to that, let me ask if Shauna Lloyd is with us. Shauna, are you here? Shauna, good to see you again. Why don't you come up to the podium? We had the wonderful opportunity last week, both Member Kester Dental and I were at an event that was hosted by Mayor Demings and Mayor Dyer, and we had the opportunity to hear from you then. So we're thrilled to have you here. So let me hear from you. Let us hear from you for a few minutes.
Well, I'm really excited. As you know, the census is coming. It's actually closer than we think. On Thursday, households will start receiving their first mailers. And as we know, census is really important for a lot of reasons, not just our redistricting and our representation, but the federal funding that comes down. And as we look out amongst the student athletes and the kids that were here and the recognition that they're getting, we know that census money dictates a lot of federal programs that affect our schools. How much money we get for new schools, school lunches, Pell Grants, Head Start. You know, there's just so many aspects of the school system that are affected by census funding that we're really excited that Orange County Public Schools has been a forerunner and helping us get the message out to some of our youngest civic-minded people. As you know, some of the younger people in these schools are messengers in their homes. Sometimes they're the translator. Sometimes they're the person that has to just keep nagging mom and dad until it gets done. Not only that, but really by next decennial, they'll be answering on their own. So this civic duty really does, that we're instilling, really does carry on. And we're really excited to be backed and supported so heavily by the Orange County Public Schools and all that you're doing with our Census and Schools programs. And for anyone that doesn't know, you probably do, but Census in Schools is a comprehensive program that the Census does. We offer free materials for teachers so that way they can download them, use them in classroom activities. We have videos available. And the school district has been wonderful enough to make sure that we're putting signage on the marquees, that we're putting things in the virtual book bags, that we're addressing it, and that way kids are aware and it's being incorporated so that way they know how important the census is. And so on Thursday, everyone's going to start receiving their mailers with their invitation to respond. It'll have a website, it'll have a telephone helpline where they can go on and start responding. So it's a really exciting time here. We have it available in 12 additional languages, which is really great because we can get past that linguistic barrier for someone who may not have responded before because they didn't understand. So that's what we're doing now with the census, and we're really excited about what Orange County Public Schools has been doing to help assist that, and the individual schools and the efforts that they're taking to really get this message out.
Thank you. Excellent. Let me mention something while you're there. One of the things that I learned by participating, and you all may well know this, but I always think of the census as something that's maybe a month or a 2-month process. And if I'm right, does it go through the end of July?
Yes, the last day of July is actually going to be the last day. So if you think about it, it's not a lot of time. We live with these numbers for the next decade. And when we talk about over $675 billion worth of funding, $7 trillion for the decade, it's not a lot of time to think that we're counting all of the people that are here in the United States. So we really are working and have been working really hard to get the message out so people know how they can respond, when they can respond, and what information they should be looking for. And the census is very short. It's easy. We're really excited. If a high schooler was to decide to answer on behalf of their whole household, they can. It's only 7 questions per person. So we're really excited by that as well.
So, Dr. Jenkins, with that, I know that we are sending out this information to our schools to share with their parents. at the meeting last week, when I realized that it is for a longer period of time, I suggested that I would come back to you and the board and see if we could send out send it out when we send it out, but maybe towards the end of the school year, send it out one more time, so that those people who maybe ignored it the first time have a second chance. And then Dr. Kester Dental hasn't pushed her button. No, she did. She also had a suggestion, so I wanted to call on Dr. Kester Dental.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's good to see you again. I've
Great
seen
to
you
see you as well.
3 times now in the last week.
Yes.
So you're getting around. You're getting the message out.
Definitely.
I want to also say that when I spoke with the superintendent today, she assured me that on all the students' laptops, there will be an icon that they can use to just click. Parents are allowed to use that on the students' laptops and answer the questions on the census as well. So that's going to be out on our message as well. So luckily, with all of our middle schoolers and high schoolers who have access to all those devices, they will be able to use that at home.
That's such wonderful news, and I'll be sharing that with the other counties because I like to do challenges to see if they will meet that, because that's amazing that they'll be able to, if they don't have access otherwise, that they have a device in the home that they can use. So we do appreciate that support. That is excellent. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you again for coming down, for being with us, and for all that you're doing to help us make sure we're all counted.
And thank you guys for realizing how important this is and ensuring that all of our students are touched by this message, because it is really important. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do not have a strategic plan update. Before I move on, Dr. Jenkins, do we have any administrators to recognize?
We have one. That is James Michael Morissetti, resource teacher at Meadowwoods Elementary, will be the new assistant principal at Conway Middle School.
Good evening, Superintendent Jenkins and all board members. I would like to thank my family, friends, and colleagues that have come tonight and are watching from a distance on YouTube right now. I would like to thank my past principals, Mrs. Pipkin, who is here, and Ms. Workham, for the opportunity to serve the Meadowwoods Elementary community. I would like to thank my mentor and current principal, Mrs. Aleli Vasquez, for all the leadership opportunities I have learned the past 3 years. Without your guidance, I would not be here today. I would also like to thank Conway Middle School Principal, Dr. Moss, and Southeast Area Superintendent, Mr. Bond, for the opportunity to join the Conway Middle School family and to serve the Conway community. I'm looking forward to it. Go Falcons, and thank you all very much.
All right, we're about to head into the main portion of our meeting. If there's anyone, I am so sorry, Member Colbert wishes to be recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say, James, how excited I am to have you at Conway. I met with Dr. Moss today and expressed to him, and he already knows this, but how fortunate Conway is to have you, especially coming under the mentorship of Principal Vasquez. I know you're going to do a wonderful, wonderful job, and we're looking at lots of exciting things to do for that community, and I know that we have the right team in place between you and Dr. Moss. So I want you to know how excited I am, and welcome and congratulations.
All right, now if there are any members of the public or our school staff that do not need to stay with us the rest of the meeting, I wanted to release you at this time. And those of you who wish to stay, we're thrilled to have you around for the rest of the evening. Thank you. Women in Teal. Yay, I love it.
This is Meadowwoods Elementary.
I love it. And they're my favorite, like my favorite color.
And the gentlemen have
Nice. Okay. So we have a number of people that would like to speak to our agenda this evening. Let me just make a few comments if I could. Those of you who have been here before, you probably know our rules But for those of you who may be here for the first time, in accordance with the parliamentary procedures, this is your opportunity to testify, if you will, before the board. This is not an opportunity to debate or engage in a conversation with the board, but rather to make your presentation to the board. The staff will be available to meet with you after you speak. If you have questions, of course, and board members are available to discuss matters outside of this forum, either by phone, email, or in person. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. And if you have any scheduling constraints, although it should be a short meeting, I would usually ask that you share that with Ms. McGill, but we should be a relatively quick evening. Let me double check to make sure before we take up our consent agenda. We have Mr. Nolan, but we pulled 1702 off.
You need me to announce it?
Pardon me?
Changes to the agenda?
I'm going to do that in just a minute, but I just wanted to make sure in terms of, well, that's true. We would have that by then. Dr. Jenkins, are there any changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we have 2 changes. First of all, non-consent item 801, request approval of the recommendation for the renewal of the charter school contract with Renaissance Charter School at Goldenrod and subsequent contract negotiations be moved to non-consent item 1701. Secondly, personnel agenda 501, item involving an instructional employee, initials MN, be also moved to non-consent to item 1702.
All right, thank you. Chair finds cause to amend the agenda. Is there a motion to amend the agenda, the consent agenda? Motion by Member Colbert. Is there a second? Second by Vice Chair Gould. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And we have no speakers on the consent agenda, so is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Motion by Member Colbert. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Gordon. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Thank you. Board Member Kester Dental asked that item 801 be moved to non-consent, that is concerning a charter renewal. I've asked Mr. Greg Moody to give you the background, and then we will hear your discussion.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Moody.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board Member, School Superintendent. Before you at 1801, you have for consideration Renaissance Charter at Goldenrod application for renewal. Renaissance at Goldenrod opened of August 2015, and it is now time for their renewal. The staff is recommending before you today a 15-year renewal, which is a standard and customary in this. We don't see any issues with academic performance. So I'll leave it up to you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Dr. Kester Dental.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Moody. I'm glad that you're here because I might have some questions for you and your department that you can help me with. I asked to take this off the non-consent, off consent to the non-consent. We, the school board, are the sponsor of the charter school. We have the authority and the responsibility to ensure that there is oversight of the charter schools in our district. The legislature has created a lot of regulations on our public schools that don't apply to charter schools. The legislature has also created a body of statutes that predetermine our decisions or would seem to tie our hands on issues regarding charter school applications and renewals, which makes the process before us right now even more important. I asked this item to be placed on the non-consent because I believe as part of our oversight, we need to provide transparency to the public through an open discussion. In fact, I would like to propose that we review our charter school policy in the near future to state that charter school items must appear on the non-consent agenda. And I would like to begin by asking some questions about the renewal. First of all, I don't remember if you stated, but that Renaissance Charter at Goldenrod has over 1,200 students in grades K through 8, and they opened 4.5 years ago. They opened the first year with a grade letter of an F, and then received 3 C's in a row. And now they're seeking the 15-year renewal of that contract. And an area of concern for me is the level of success of the current academic program. I don't know what, are there any representatives from Renaissance here tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Would you like to hear from them?
Sure, or if they could answer any questions I have. I know that the letter grade of a C, yes, thank you.
Dr. Kester Dental, let's hold just a minute. Well, and we'll have them, if you can formally introduce yourself for the record, please. And thank you for being here this evening.
Principal.
I'm going to work on getting that down for you.
Good evening. My name is Priscilla Mendez. I'm the proud principal at Renaissance Charter School at Goldenrod. I've been at Goldenrod since we opened, so our school is near to my heart. I'm also a parent at Goldenrod, and so the concerns that you bring forward are concerns of mine as well. One of our biggest goals as a charter school is we always talk about outperforming the competition. And when we really think about it, good educators, we're all in this business together. And so even these 3 consecutive C's, when we look at our OCPS schools in our neighborhood, they're all C schools as well. And so we're really trying to combat the work that we do in our very transient community. And so we're working closely with our ESSA report. I can tell you that we work extremely hard with our ESC population, our ESOL students. We have over 190 ESC students, over 400 ESOL students. And so we've definitely had to shift our practice. And so I've seen our school go from the F school. We jumped 2 letter grades in 1 year. Last year was actually my first year as principal. It's my second year. And so we're extremely proud of the work that we're doing. We're a Leader in Me school. We are going up for Lighthouse status. And so we're trying to become a leadership academy. And so to my right, we have Mr. Nate Mariano. He is our current State Deputy Director for Charter Schools USA, but he was our founding principal. And so it's great to stand before you because we really have carried the school on our backs, and it isn't where we need it to be yet, but one of the biggest goals that my staff and I have is to be the first B school in this area, to be that beacon of light for our community. And so we do have an OCPS school being built across the street from us, and so we are no strangers to adversity. And so we're home of the Lions. We always rise up as a family. And so one of the things when anyone visits our school, we want it to feel like home. We want it to have that feel. And so we have accomplished that in 5 years. And so when I consider us, we're only 5 years old. We're a kindergartner if we were a school-age child, but we're just so proud of the work that we're doing and our future.
Before you step away, I did not catch your name. I'm so sorry.
Priscilla Mendez.
Mendez? Mm-hmm. Thank you, Priscilla Mendez. All right, and sir, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure.
She did a wonderful job.
No,
I don't know that you can do better than
that. Nate Mariano. I'm now the Deputy Director of our Charter Schools USA in Florida, but I'm also just leaving the principal seat. But I was the founding principals of at Renaissance at Goldenrod in 2015, and really this echo everything is that family atmosphere that's been created of leadership, of family, of community, and high academic standards, which is coming and continuing to grow, and we're really excited to see all the fruits of its labor. And we really determine also the applicants keep coming, our families stay. The return rate is very strong. It's over 90% year after year, and the enrollment has grown from 750 all the way up to over 1,200 in those years, with more coming on the way. So we're just excited for the growth and for that healthy competition, because we know that helps our game, helps your game, helps everyone in the end. So and that's what counts, because the kids are the most important.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, back to Dr. Kester Dental.
Thank you. I'm glad that you all are here today. And I do want to thank Ms. Mendez for giving me a tour of the school recently and taking the time to do that. some of my questions are going to be for our OCPS department. One of my concerns is that letter grade, if it was to drop again, and we have a 15-year renewal or a 15-year contract, when does OCPS kind of step in and intervene? What is that process?
With a one letter grade of a D, is that your question? I'm sorry.
Well, if they get a D or if they get an F, what is the process for OCPS intervening in?
So a school that gets a charter school that gets a letter grade of D or F, they must submit a school improvement plan that is reviewed. And if they receive, if they receive 3 consecutive grades of C or below, the charter school must submit a school improvement plan that includes corrective actions that's outlined in statute. I can go over those if you like. And that is to select one of the actions. One of them is being, they can contract for educational services to be provided directly to students, instructional personnel, and school administrators. The charter school may select an education management organization or academic management organization to provide services to charter school students, teachers, and administrators, including services such as instructional coaching, curriculum review, literacy, data literacy, curriculum review, and alignment. Another option that they could submit would be contract with an outside entity that has demonstrated a record of effectiveness to operate the school. Or they could, number 3, they could reorganize the school under a new director or new principal who is authorized to hire new staff. And the 4th option would be to voluntarily close.
Okay, for clarification, you're talking about the steps for a charter.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said if they get 3 Cs in a row, they have to have a school improvement plan?
If below, 3 consecutive below
Below
a C.
C.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, below.
All right. And are those the same criteria for the traditional public schools for intervening?
So public schools are a little different, and thank you for the question. I can clarify. I have a comparison of charter school and traditional, if you would like. So a single D or an F, the Department of Education shall annually identify each public school in need of intervention and support to improve student academic performance. All schools earning grade D or F pursuant to statute 1008.34 are schools in need of intervention and support. They are to submit a school improvement plan that is reviewed by the regional executive director from the Bureau of School Improvement. Tiered support will be provided by the Bureau of School Improvement and regional team. That's for a single D or F. 3 consecutive grades below a C. Unless an additional year of implementation is provided pursuant to paragraph A, a school that earns 3 consecutive grades below a C must implement one of the following. Number 1, reassign students to another school and monitor the progress of each reassigned student. Number 2, close the school and reopen the school as one or more charter schools, each with a governing board that has demonstrated a record of effectiveness. Or 3, contract with an outside entity that has demonstrated a record of effectiveness to operate the school. An outside entity may include the district-managed charter school in which all instructional employees are not employed of the school district, but are employees of the independent governing board composed of members that did not participate in the approval of the charter.
All right, so there are different criteria for traditional versus charter. If in that 15-year stretch there is a decision by either the school or the school district because of their performance that they must close, then what happens to those 1,200 students? Are we able to accommodate all of those students if they were to close in the surrounding schools or our district?
So yes, ma'am. Great question. So as OCPS, we are very proud of our accomplishments. So we accept all our kids, and we would gladly accept as we have in the past. if a charter school and or a private school had closed by. But if a charter school had closed, we reach out to that family. We have a process of closure. So anytime before a closure, the school board would be well aware, staff would be well aware. We would enact our process for closure, which means a number of things. But to answer your question, we would be able to provide, identify with those students, those parents, and those families, invite them back to Orange County Public Schools. Interesting of charter schools, and I was able to, when you asked that question earlier, I was able to look at, they sent me, student enrollment sent me a report of where their enrollment comes from. So there are a number of schools across the district. It's not just all centered around that particular geographic zone. So there are a number of kids throughout the district. And I can provide that list to the entire board after the meeting. But yes, to answer your question, yes, we would be able to accommodate those kids, those students, and welcome them back to Orange County Public Schools. Yes, ma'am, and we have in the past.
All right, thank you. I have a couple questions for the Renaissance Charter. You mentioned the families that come back, but do you have like a turnover rate or mobility rate of students?
We do. Our current recommit rate was at 93%. We often have students who they come and go, and so what we're seeing most is families are moving to St. Cloud, other counties, other states. Many of them return, and so even last year we were at 44% on FSA, but this was the first time that our enrollment really increased. So we're extremely proud that this year we exceeded our enrollment target, which was 1185. And so when I think back to when we opened at 750 students, the longer our students are with us over time, they historically will do better because of the work that we're putting in. And so last year for us, as a first-year principal, it was very difficult to accept that we didn't become that we promised our community to become. However, our ESC and ESOL population has also grown. We really needed to work to ensure that our staffing was really meeting the needs of our students. And so that really is the kind of work that we're doing, being extremely intentional in what we're doing for our newest students.
Okay, so when you have openings in your like you have seats available, how do you market or advertise or get the word out to people to come?
So that's a great question. We're really trying to identify what that school identity looks like. And so it's pretty difficult to lead a K through 8 school. And so this year, it has really been our mission to provide 2 experiences in one building. And that was one of the things that I was most proud of with our tour. So we are a Leader in Me school. And so the 3 things we want to be remembered as are 3 words: stewardship, leadership, and relationship. And so we're really trying to merge the Leader in Me with the Ron Clark house system. And so that is a way for middle school to have that solid identity. And so we do have a marketing team of 2. I know that as building leader, I am the head cheerleader and marketer for our school. And so we do have an application process, and we do run our lottery as seats become available. And so our wait list is small, but we have exceeded enrollment, which has never been the case for us. And so we just had an event this morning with over 200 families who are joining us in the upcoming year. And so it was great to really show them the way we do things at Goldenrod. And so we're constantly looking at our applications and welcoming those families. One of the things that we're also working very hard toward is to really be inclusive of our Spanish-speaking community. And so everything we do is in English and Spanish. All communication goes home in English and Spanish. And for that, our community, it has been a step in the right direction. And so those families are really coming and they feel extremely welcome within our building.
Okay. I have a couple more questions. Is that okay? Please. Okay. How many classes are at your school, or how many teachers do you have per grade?
So in primary, we have between 7 and 8 teachers in K through 4. Our 5th grade has 5 classrooms. We have 15 classes in middle school. This is the first year that we offered middle school acceleration. And so that was honestly one of the missteps regarding school grade last year. We didn't have enough acceleration points to really help move us forward. We have 12 elective courses split between elementary specials and middle school specials.
Okay. I want to refer to an article that was written by the Palm Beach Post last year about Renaissance charter schools in Palm Beach County. They found that more than 25% of the full-time instructors were substitutes. And at one of the schools, there was more than a third were uncertified. And then, and almost half at another in Palm Beach were long-term subs. And at the bottom of the article, the journalist or the reporter said that this problem was most pronounced throughout the state in Palm Beach County and in the 4 schools in Orange County. So I know you're just representing your school today,
yes.
But can you tell us how many full-time teacher positions are filled by long-term subs or uncertified teachers right now?
So we currently have about 15 permanent subs. These are individuals who have college degrees who are part of the Florida Teachers for Tomorrow program, which is a teacher preparation program. And so teachers have a mentor and they go through a self-paced course through this certification program. And so when we receive our DOE reports for certification status, we are constantly working to monitor and coach these individuals. We have 2 curriculum resource teachers, one who focuses on math, one on ELA. And so we really strive to be those instructional leaders for those individuals. To offset those teachers who are permanent subs, we have certified co-teachers who also follow the co-teaching model, and so they are paired with a co-teacher. And so it's worked out really nicely for us where we have 2 teachers in the room to really combat certification. And so this year, we're really working with those people, and I understand your point that sometimes people get comfortable because they have this permanent status, permanent substitute status. However, we're really working to combat that. We have over 64 certified, full certification teachers, and that's including our specials teachers, all of our administrators. And this year, new to us, we have paraprofessionals, just for that extra support.
Yeah, and Goldenrod's done a really, really great job. Teacher shortage is not something we're all not immune to, and we've partnered with a lot of the same groups. Public schools like Teachers of Tomorrow has been a really great partner for us and with us. It depends on the leadership in the building of holding those accountable and coming up with great co-teaching models with certified coaches, with other teachers, with co-teachers to really close that gap. But I do know the number over time has dramatically decreased, specifically at Goldenrod, and it's always an issue or a concern that we're addressing on our back end to continue those partnerships with the district professional development offerings, with our partnerships with Florida teachers or other partnerships that will help our teachers get the necessary courses for certifications. But I know, like I said, Gold has done a fantastic job of really closing the gap with the amount of teachers, certified teachers.
Can I just want to follow up. Did you say you had 15 permanent subs?
Yes.
At the one school?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we have over 80 teachers, and so that's including co-teachers, our specials teachers,
okay,
our leadership team, and so we are a large staff. Many of these individuals come from other states and are also waiting to complete different portions of
And I think
their
it's important
assessments.
it's different from a daily sub. Sometimes it's the word substitute gets sort of brought in there, but these are professionals who are either second career, who come from the either engineers coming to teach middle school math or science, or waiting for their state reciprocity to come with them. So very diligent on all with at least bachelor's degrees. So we're not putting in day-to-day subs, but they are people who are working towards wanting to become full-time teachers and that's why they're mandated to be part of these certification programs.
And as a Title I school, if I can add, we send our 21-day letters home to parents just to be very transparent with our families and what our action items are as a school to really ensure that our students are getting a quality education. And so again, as an instructional leader, the one place I'm always at is in classrooms and really ensuring that all teachers, whether certified or working towards certification, are providing our students with those best practices.
Okay. Can you tell us about the kind of teacher turnover and staff turnover you have throughout the year?
We've actually done a really great job. I know in our early years, it was very difficult to retain staff. Last school year, we had about 5 of our teachers not return, and we had 4 who transferred to other CSUSA schools. So as a sisterhood of schools, staff members can transfer. We actually had 5 people transfer to us, so it felt really great that people wanted to be part of that work with us. So we were over 95% with staff. So currently we have about 60 staff members who were with us since we opened. But again, we've actually acquired a lot of great talent, so sometimes turnover isn't a bad thing.
Okay, another follow-up about the teachers and staff. Who is in charge at Renaissance of hiring? Is that you, the principal? Is it the Charter Schools USA? Who's in charge of hiring?
So there's a variety of different steps. So we do have hiring fairs through Charter Schools USA, and so sometimes all of us as leaders work together to recruit talent and really match the right fit for our school. So we do that. At Goldenrod, again, that shared leadership is so important to us, and we've had a hiring committee each year for the last 3 years, and so our teachers really work to screen candidates. We tour them through our building. We want to make sure that they're a good fit and that it's a mutual decision, and so really it is us at the building level, but our teachers are part of that process because we know as a school community exactly what we're looking for to join our team. My assistant principal and I make the final determination. Currently, I have 1 assistant principal. As enrollment grows, we might have a second one, so that's always very exciting, but we do have that support from Charter Schools USA via hiring fairs, and we have partnerships with universities. We've actually had 3 student teachers come out of Goldenrod, and so that's exciting, and they're working for us. So again, that's important as a new school. That's a great milestone for us.
Okay, I have a question about another entity, the governing board. What is their role in oversight?
It would be the same role as you hold. We have our monthly meetings, which are very similar questions that are talked about: academics, operational excellence, culture. Those same areas of concern are areas that our board are monitoring us on and hold us accountable to, because we do answer to them. So those meetings are held monthly with around the state at different of our Renaissance charter schools around the state. And we're very familiar with a lot of the questions. We do provide, more detailed answers. We have our survey results. We have our detailed academic results for them, and we have that relationship with them where it is that healthy, back and forth, but in terms of monitoring and support, in that pressure and support. So it's that same accountability system.
And we've actually been part and held to the fire on different things through our board, which again, we appreciate as a school community. When we were an F, we went through being a tier 3 school and having weekly calls for our action items. One of my favorite things is to really outline and plan and look at the big picture for our school. And so we always welcome that feedback. Jumping the 2 letter grades, again, was great for us, but still, there's still that work to be done. And so even not increasing as much as we wanted to, we've had to put in a lot of work, but a good leader has to know where they're going, and so we 100% know where we're headed as a school.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Maybe it's more for our department. Do we get a report, or how do we ensure the quality of teachers that they have? How do we know how many long-term subs or certified teachers or short-term subs?
Yes, ma'am. So they work with, I don't think we know the day-to-day as how many subs, short-term subs, but charter schools work with our HR department for hiring to make sure that the teachers that they hire are certified. So they work through our HR department and our certification departments. But
I'm sorry. So if they hire a certified teacher, they go through our HR, but if they hire a full-time or long-term sub, they go through the school?
Do they go through?
It's everyone. We work directly. We submit all the paperwork through the certification. We go to our certification department, and then they'll work with us if they need another course, if they need something else, or if they say, well, they don't qualify for certified yet under Orange County. So then we submit, so we'll bring them on maybe as a, however we want to code them, an interim teacher and a sub, permanent sub, and then as they work through their coursework and our programs, we resubmit their test scores back through certification, and then they give us clearance to move on with certification.
Okay, so we are, OCPS is involved in the HR, the background checks, stuff like that. But as far as whether the teachers are certified, the ones who are in the classrooms, it sounds like we're using some of them as some of the subs, the permanent subs, are being placed in classrooms and they're not certified. And then when they get certified, then we switch them to teacher.
Yes, and over at the district, Franny does a great job with, again, our out-of-field waivers, teachers with expiring certifications, and so we, again, follow that process through them. And even this school year, we've had 6 people go from permanent sub status to full-time teacher status. Last year, we had 4 teachers who went through that, and so we're 100% on top of our teachers to finish that certification, to take that final test. What we're finding is not that these people are not qualified. They are really struggling with the math portion of the GKT, specifically people who come here from other states. So that has been a problem that I foresee that maybe we can do something on that end to make sure they actually pass.
All right, that's all my questions for now. Thank you for answering them.
No, great questions. Dr. Jenkins.
Member Gallo has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Member Gallo, and then we'll go to Member Lopez. Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just have a few questions, mostly about the numbers that came out of the school. It seems like in 2017 and 2018, like your bottom 25% was at 52.8%, and then it dropped in 18-19 to 45.2%. And these are the numbers that I'm actually getting off the Department of Education's website, the report cards. And then under English language proficiency, we saw a similar drop. In 17-18, it was at 29.7%. In 18-19, it was at 15.8%. So I was just curious as to what happened. Why was there a drop from one year to the next?
Thank you. That's a great question. So last year we did not meet our enrollment target, which also led to mitigation. So some of those action plans that we had to really target the lowest 25th percentile as well as our ESOL students were put on hold. And so by being over-enrolled this year, we've been able to put that in place. So we didn't meet our enrollment target, but we did grow. And so again, these were a lot of our students that came in. We did not have data for them. Our students all have portfolios. We do student-led conferences. We're really building those student efficacy levels, but again, really trying to learn our students. Last year was an issue, as well as not having all of the personnel that we really needed to combat those needs. And so this year we've worked a lot with our ESSA report card and really looking at our ESC students. My assistant principal is actually over ESC, and that is really her strength and passion. And so we have really put in a lot of strong systems, and in fact, Charter Schools USA is using our school as a model for some of those things, really teaching our teachers how to become experts and know what those accommodations look like when they come to life.
Member Gallo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So based on all the interventions that you put into place this year, do you have any idea where your school may fall grade-wise for this current school year? Will it be an increase?
Yes, we're so excited. We're projected to be at 54%. So we're thrilled. We aren't telling our staff that yet because we want to really make sure that that sense of urgency remains, but our school and our staff is working extremely, extremely hard. And so last year our school really did a phenomenal job. The one area was in civics. We went from 43% to 71%. And so we have a lot of game changers in the classroom. And so we're just so excited to grow. We know that this is our year. Not only is it a charter renewal year, we also have a school being built across from us. And so we understand that the stakes are high, but we are so committed and dedicated to this community. But I will tell you, we didn't lose anyone because of school grade. We actually got more families in, and that's what we're working is to retain and really make that growth.
Member Gallo?
That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Member Lopez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a few questions for the Renaissance team. The first one is, what is the percent of ELLs?
We have about 30% of our students are ELL students. And so right now we have WIDA testing, which again, we're very fortunate to have a larger team to support those students. And so through Title I, we have been able to hire paraprofessionals and some more ESOL co-teachers. So that's extremely exciting. We have piloted Rosetta Stone for our ELL population. We also implemented Walk to RTI, where those specific students have 45 minutes daily of Walk to RTI within their grade level bands.
Perfect. What is the percent of proficiency of ELLs in the FSA?
I don't think we didn't come with the exact numbers. I mean, we can provide those through the department for the board, but we'd be more than happy to provide that.
No problem. Are all of the teachers ESOL endorsed?
And so that's also a great question. So again, we work through the certification office to, if any of our teachers are out of field because of ESOL, again, that's something that we're working toward. We provide all of our proper documentation to the county. Our teachers do go through OCPS to take those certification courses. Currently we have 13 teachers who are out of field for ESOL.
Okay. All of those out-of-field teas are approved through our board as they come, so they are board approved.
Can you provide any data that proves how effective is your ESC program?
So if we look at the ESSA report card from last year, that subgroup was an F. Our ESOL population, they were a D. And so again, those are two of our big target areas this school year. So we're really excited to see that. We currently have 5 ESC teachers. We have 2 behavior specialists. Again, just different things that we didn't have in the past to really target those students. And so right now, one of our areas is 6th grade. That is the grade level that has the most ESC students. We actually track by grade level all of our ESC students, and so what the support looks like for them in the classroom. And so we have really looked at our target list, our lowest 25 percentile target list, because some of those grade levels have a lot more ESC students.
Okay. Could you please describe your demographics?
Yes, we are 85% Hispanic, 10% African American, and 5% other. And so our students primarily speak Spanish. We have a couple who speak Portuguese and a couple from Thailand.
And also, can you describe the academic achievement? I think this is, I think this one is for our department. Maybe, can you describe the academic achievement gap in comparison of Renaissance in comparison with the schools that are in the same zone, in the same area? Well, you can. Okay.
Achievement gaps between Renaissance and schools in the same area. I can provide that, yes ma'am, not this evening, but I can definitely get that to the entire school board at your request. We can, this afternoon, obviously we took a view of surrounding schools in the area, in that geographic area, and many of the schools are a C grade in the area. But we can get you more detailed information, obviously, definitely.
Are Renaissance, is Renaissance following the same code of conduct of OCPS or they?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
All right, Member Gordon.
Oh, I thought we were going to be gone, but we're not. Okay. I too have several questions since the questioning. I know if Dr. Jenkins, this is really not our procedure doing board meeting, but I think because of the request, but I need to, Dr. Jenkins and to Madam Chair,
Please.
I need to, number one, ask this. I went into detail with this with Dr. Woody and his staff. And what is it that we are required to do when this charter just started in 2017 and they're asking for 15 years and they really haven't gotten an A, and I have been so hard on the other charters that have come before us and they had A's. So I need to know what is the board's obligation, because I don't see a sense of promotion for 15 years when they're still struggling with the C for 3 years. I have a problem with that because I have to look at what's happening in my district and what are the, okay, you didn't go over this with me in the discussion, and I did talk with the general counsel, and you all gave me great information, but now after hearing Kester Dental and my fellow co-board member, Joanna Lopez, I'm a little concerned now. Why do we have to give them 15 years? Because I know we did this a long time ago, and we do have a new board, and this is not our typical procedures. Our typical procedures of answering these questions is done in a work session, and that will give all of us an opportunity to find out where you stand. But what is the state? Now, I know the state shows favoritism, and I hope you all know that, the leaders of this charter school, that you get a little bit more favoritism than we do. Do you agree with that, or you do not agree with that? We're not under the same playing field. Do you can both of you come and answer that for me, please?
We're here to serve children.
No, I didn't ask that. Okay. The children is no. You have guidelines that we don't always get. Is that true or not, or do you want me to name them?
We follow the state statutes and with the district.
Based on the charter schools.
Correct.
Based on the charter.
Based on the charter agreement.
You can't be following the same because I'm a teacher, number one. Okay. You have different, and I don't want to debate. I just thought that you could answer, so you won't be, you can't answer that part, right?
Based off the charter, we follow our charter and our agreement.
Okay, well, let me get back to the chair and the superintendent and the general counsel, because we missed that in our discussion, because we did not get the major workshop that we get. What is to make this board give them 15 years? And then we get stuff from the doggone state saying that they're going to close Kester Dental School and my school if we don't move up. So help me, why would we give them 15 years and I can't get 1 year if our grades didn't improve?
Dr. Gordon, there's lots that's in your question, so I'm going to try to unpack it as much as I can. Here's what the state statute says with respect to renewal of charter schools. In addition to facilitate access to long-term financial resources for charter school construction, charter schools that are operated by a private not-for-profit 501c3 status corporation, which they are eligible for up to a 15-year charter.
Okay, now stop. Since they did not know, are we eligible to go on 15 years if we have 3 Cs in a row?
They would not, the state would not close us for having 3 Cs in a row at our schools. If we had schools with 3 Cs in a row, they would not take
But don't we have to write a plan?
If you get Ds and Fs, yes, that's when you start have to writing a school improvement plan. That is correct.
So keep going.
All right. So that says they're eligible for up to a 15-year charter subject to district school board approval. Such long-term charters remain subject to annual review and may be terminated during the term of the charter, but only according to the provision set forth in subsection 8. So then let me go to subsection 8.
Thank you.
There are 4 statutory grounds upon which we can close or not review non-renew a charter school. 1, failure to participate in the state's education accountability system, i.e. failure to take the standardized testing, which they do, as required in the section, or failure to meet the requirements for student performance stated in the charter. 2, failure to meet generally accepted standards of fiscal management, and generally accepted standards of fiscal management are to ensure that they're not in a financial emergency. 3, material violation of the law. 4, other good cause shown. Other good cause shown is a violation of the charter contract. Now, if we move to non-renew them or to terminate them, we would have to prove it by not a preponderance of the evidence. We would have to prove it by clear and convincing evidence. A preponderance of evidence is 50% plus 1 standard. Clear and convincing is more like a 75% standard. And we would do that in front of a DOA, Division of Administrative Hearings, hearing officer. If we were successful, we would not pay attorney's fees, but if the charter school was successful, we would owe the charter school their attorney's fees and costs.
Okay, let me do this. I have got to ask this. Did this board, I know they didn't. I know how it happened, but I need the public to hear how it happened. How did they get the power to ask for 15 years?
It's statutory.
And they have only, oh, Jesus, Lord have mercy. Let me stop there. Statutory by the group that lobbied to get it there? Or did it come from the Commission of Education or the Superintendent's Organization? Or?
In my understanding of these statutes, there are lots of ways that this statute has changed over the years. It has changed tremendously in the 10 years I've been here.
And I've been here on this board 20.
Most of the changes have not originated from school boards,
Thank you,
superintendents,
Thank you.
etc.
This is what I'm trying to share with them. They have the USA Charter lobbying all over the United States, in our community, lobbying for chances that we could never get at a public school. What are our chances? I'm not in favor of 15 years. So how would I work it without violating the state statute of giving them the 15? What can I do as a board member that I could recommend to my team so that we can monitor them for the things that I'm getting ready to ask? Because when Kester Dental and Joanna asked some things, it bothered me, and I wrote them down. And then I said, well, dog, if we do that, we won't be able to come back and do anything. And our judiciary right is to monitor this charter school and make sure that they're following the rules and doing everything. So, Mr. Pomerani.
The statute says that it's, are eligible for up to a 15-year charter subject to the approval of the district school board. Could a reading of that statute be read to say we could approve something less than 15 years?
That's
Possibly.
what I'm hoping we could do.
However, I will just say, just for the edification of the board, typically when these charter schools have gotten renewals, they have been recommended for and they have been routinely granted 15-year renewals. That has
I know,
been
I've
practice in the
been
past.
here, and keep going.
And so that is typically what we have done. We have gotten recommendations. We've given recommendations to the board to renew them for 15 years after their initial charter. The board has typically granted that. There have been very few instances where we've had charter schools that have had some problems with financial records that needed to be cleared up. So we would give them a 1-year renewal to allow them to clear up those financials. And then once they would do that, we would then recommend the full 15-year renewal. But Dr. Scott can speak to some of those schools that we've given like the 1-year renewals to on those issues.
I'm familiar with it, but the new board members may not be familiar. Okay, what have I recommended? Maybe we give them the 1-year or 2-year renewal so that we could look into how they do their full rates, how the classroom management. I'm hearing from the principal some things. Where do they get their training? We do Kelly. She said they don't do Kelly. They do another organization that I wrote down here, and I can come back to it. But I'm worried about the training. I don't understand the fiscal waiver, the field waiver she was talking about. How could they get a field waiver? Please help me to understand how they can get out of field waiver for their teachers when my school and everybody up here need teachers.
Now I will.
So that's the next thing I'm talking about, favoritism and lobbying what could do. Then I'm really concerned of teacher certification. I heard her say they have 15 permanent subs. And then I heard her talk about the Florida teachers for tomorrow, but I did not get from Dr. Woody any information showing me in the papers for a 15-year renewal where all of these permanent subs are certified teachers, as they are stating.
Now, Dr.
So I would need more time to look into their fill rate, unless they can give me the full rate right now, because I can't believe what I'm hearing. Classroom management, I work in a behavior school. She has 1,200 kids, K through 8, and she said they have 2 behavior specialists. I worked in the 9th traditional Orange and Osceola Behavior School, and some of you have visited where I am in Osceola. And my God, we have between 350 to 5, and that 5 that's when we were on Simpson Road. So I'm concerned about those 1,200. It doesn't sound like sound behavioral fiscal management to me. There, but 2. And then how are they handling their suspension? Suspension is big, big, big in Orange County. I haven't seen a suspension report from this charter that would prove to me that this school should be given 15 more years. That means they don't have to come to us for nothing. They're on their own now. And this is what's happening throughout the United States with USA Charter. The longevity of their program without fiscal control, without authoritarian control, I'm really concerned about. And then how many kids have been kicked out of that school and had to be returned to us? And did we get our money back? Madam Chair, I'm requesting from you to check with our superintendent to see how many students have been suspended from this school before we extend 15 years? And did those children return to private schools? Or did they return back into Orange County Public School? And did they refund our money for the time that they have been back? Dr. Jenkins knows exactly what I'm talking about, Madam Chair, because when those kids were suspended in my district from a charter school, and then when the kids in my district, charter school closed, 2, 3 of them, all of those kids had to come back in my district, overflow all my elementary schools, take us back from an A to another F. I'm concerned. And then didn't give us the money because they were almost bankrupt from paying salaries. I would like to know, since we are fighting for teacher salary, what their teachers are being paid. I did not see that. I would like to know what the directors are being paid, and I would like to know what the state, I'm trying to get the deputy directors, what you're being paid as compared to our area soups and our principals. It's going to be hard for me to give you 15 years. I think you should agree with me after you've heard all the things that I have in this little book. So, Madam Chair, is there any way that this can be pulled until we can get additional information on the makeup of this charter before we turn them loose and give them 15 years? And I am really concerned about a report on teacher certification to be included in that report to the board. And are those teachers still there? Or are you using... Teachers can't stay in a school when there's no management. I know that. It's hard. And when there's good management, teachers find out that's not their fit. I love where I am. Been there 25 years. Love it. Because I can handle those kids. Everybody can't handle behavior kids. And they're not just behavior, they're children mentally ill. So I need to know where those kids that have left you, how many have left you, what is your suspension rate, how many referrals, and if any were referral, did the money come back to help that school where that child enrolled? Because that money, Dr. Jenkins, you know, we worked on that, and that money was supposed to be given back to Orange County Public Schools so that we can help that child grow and be successful. Now, I do have others, Madam Chair, but if you want me to be quiet.
Let's find out one thing, okay. If we could. And I think your point, your primary question at this time is, would a motion to continue this to a future meeting be in order? That is a question to you, Mr. Palmieri.
I will move the motion.
Well, and here's the thing, I just want to make sure statutorily before we do
right,
that.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I asked if we pull it off the agenda and bring it back, Madam Chair.
Either, whichever procedure. Mr. Palmierini, if you need a couple of minutes.
I actually am going to need a couple
Take
minutes.
a couple minutes. We need to go back to a public hearing that we didn't have. Take a couple minutes and then come back and recommend to the board. If the majority of the board members feel that at this point in time they need more information to cast this vote, what would be the proper motion for us or action for us to take, if any? You'll take that break.
Yes.
Okay.
And then let them think about so they'll know. The T3 bothered me. But the T3, what's your T3? Yeah, the tier 3.
Same way where you mentioned if a school was a C school, it's really a system to monitor the school. And so it bothers me too, going from a tier 3 to a tier 2 and back to a tier 3. And so when you mentioned sometimes those babies leave and when they come back to us, we move tiers. So again, it is something that deeply concerns our leadership team, and those behavior individuals that we have, they're also working to meet some of the needs of our ESC students. Not that our behaviors honestly are out of control, but they are doing a variety of things and teaching students how to advocate through themselves for our
Okay,
our
you're going a little too far for me because you're way off. Okay, in that, I'm very familiar with the tiers because it hit, when it came, Dr. Jenkins called us together separately and let us know our babies are in trouble because they were coming back. They were coming back from different charter schools, and it was taking us down. And they came back just before testing time. Okay? Do you hear me?
I hear you.
They came back before testing time. So if they come back before testing time, that'll keep you where you want to be. But it took us, I'm not saying you, your school, but we have proof to show. And our staff really went through those tiers with this board to let us know, okay, how detrimental it could be and how helpful it could be and what the state will do to us if we didn't move in one direction or the other. Okay, so you heard a lot of things. We're waiting on our general counsel and the chairperson.
Okay.
But I hope you understand this is not an attack, and it wasn't meant to be an attack, but I just wanted to know what our rights are when you're still a C. If you, even those that came before us and they were A, there were some other things that they didn't quite have right, but they were so gracious and they went back and they got it right and they have come before this board. They're some of our better charters and they have done extremely well because they heard us and they listened to us because we want to be good partners. But they went back and they didn't want to, but they went back and got it right. You know that you got some things wrong in there and you know they're not right. So what I'm trying to say to you, if we are going to extend it for that long period of time, get it all right. Let us know the truth, even though you don't have to. And that's been the problem throughout the United States. You don't have to do it because you pay your lobbyists well. Matter of fact, throw in that report too so I can see how much you're paying your lobbyists because I'm getting ready to retire and I might want to consider being a lobbyist. So throw that in there. Thank you so very much, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
Mr. Pomerani, do you have the answer?
I do. Statutorily, we have 90 days before non-renewing them to notify the governing board in writing. Our contract ends June 30, so 90 days before that would be around the 1st of April. So I would say if you're going to move to postpone, you have to move to postpone, but you have to make a decision by the March 24th board meeting.
All right. All right. Is there a motion to, pardon me, do we have a meeting on March 24th?
No.
I'm sorry, we do not have a meeting on the 24th. When is our next meeting?
April 7th.
They may need to be in that work session, but they need to do it before then. So, Madam Chair, you may have to ask the superintendent, what do we need to do?
Dr. Jenkins, can we notice a public hearing the day of the work session to take this single issue up in addition to the work session?
Notice a special meeting.
And since this is a public hearing that's been advertised, can we make a motion to continue it to that date where we wouldn't need to re-advertise it? I don't know if it works that way over here. It does at the county.
I believe this wasn't a public
No,
hearing.
it wasn't a public hearing, but it was noticed as a consent agenda. It was noticed as a hearing. Do we have to re-advertise it, and how many days would that be? Okay. Okay. So.
Anyway, so you pulled it off of consent so that people could make the comments, so you wouldn't have to re-advertise it.
We would or would not?
Would not.
Okay.
We just have to add it to the agenda.
All right. So my question now is, would there need to be a motion, and would it be to continue this, or what would you like that motion to say?
You would have to continue it. We're going to have to figure which meeting that we are going to move it to.
We're going to move it to the day of the work session, and we're going to have a special board meeting the day of the work session.
There's one the 24th.
Okay.
We're already advertised to have a meeting on the 24th. Is there any problem with changing that to include
the renewal of the charter school contract?
We have a work session I have a work session and a school board meeting on my.
Okay.
No, just a work session. So we would have to do a work session to get through the issues that you want to ask, and then we'd have to have a special board meeting that same afternoon.
We'd have to advertise a special board.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the superintendent and my fellow board members. I request that this item that was moved from 801 and placed to 1701 be recommended to move to the March 24th work session to consider a 15-year renewal of the charter school contract with Renaissance Charter School at Goldenrod and subsequent contract agreement negotiation pending information is given to this board in a timely manner.
We have
in order for staff to be able to work it out and get it back to us.
And if I could add a little bit, if you would then also make a motion to have a special board meeting.
Yes.
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 Okay.
And that motion includes that there shall be a special board meeting to conduct that on the, whatever date. You've got it. Okay. We have a motion by Dr. Gordon, seconded by Dr. Kester Dental. Everyone clear on the motion? All right. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you. We will see you back then. Well, before you walk away, let me ask this of board members. Dr. Gordon, I know you had a few more things in your little book, as she calls it. It's the green book for the record. You have a few more things in there. This meeting is tape recorded, so you'll be able to go back and pick up all the questions. If there are any other questions that you have, so that we can have an effective, productive meeting, I'm going to ask that you please get those questions to the applicant within, well, who do you want them to go to?
To Mr. Moody.
To Mr. Moody. Please try to get it to Mr. Moody by the end of the day tomorrow so that there's time for them to gather, because some of this was some comprehensive data that needs to be gathered. All of the questions were excellent questions. I just want to make sure that there's ample time for the information to come back to us. Okay? Are we all comfortable with that? Wonderful. All right. And thank you again for being here. Okay. I do need to take us back. I apologize. I missed the public hearing request for approval of adoption of the World Languages Textbook, Instructional Resources and Materials. And Dr. Jenkins, I'll call on you at this time to call on our next speaker.
This is our second and final hearing, Madam Chair, members of the board, required statutorily for our world languages adoption. It says final on the agenda. And so it is our opportunity to hear from any members of the public who might have concerns or questions about instructional materials adoption. So we simply need to call for any speakers, and then we can close the hearing and move on.
All right, I have no speaker cards for this public hearing. This is last call. Any members of the public wish to speak on the World Languages Textbook, Instructional Resources? Seeing none, is there a member of the board that wishes to move approval? Move approval by Member Lopez. Do we have a second? Second by Member Byrd. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Member Lopez, did you just press your button? You did. Go ahead.
I just want to celebrate, and I just want to congratulate the multilingual department. I am so happy about this decision and the book adoption for the world languages. Thank you, Josie Medina, and also our world languages resource teachers, Kelly Graham and Lisa Morales, and also to Dr. Bixler as well, so for his unconditional support to the world languages. So I'm very proud and I'm very happy about that.
Thank you, Member Lopez. All right, Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
So, a couple of things for my report. I want to give you an update. We've had, since the last time we talked, both a conference call with superintendents and the governor and the Surgeon General, and then with the commissioner and the chancellor, significant conversations. Like to bring you up to date on that. And then secondly, we need to bring, in fact, let me reverse that because I can move mine much faster. Mr. Bixler, if you'd come forward. I want to give you an update on Florida's best standards and where we are on the new and improved Florida standards, and then we will give you the update from our latest conference call on COVID-19. Mr. Bixler, you're on.
Yep. Good evening, Chair Jacobs, board members, and Superintendent Jenkins. Tonight I will provide you an update on the new Florida best standards, which include an overview, the timeline, and implications for OCPS. On January 31st, 2019, Governor DeSantis issued Executive Order 1932, with a directive that Florida would comprehensively review Florida's ELA and math standards and recommend revisions. With his goal of making Florida the most literate state in the nation, the executive order outlined a plan to get us there. This included consulting with stakeholders, eliminating Common Core, with a return to the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, and ensuring that our students graduated with a strong understanding of America's civics. Overall, he wanted to increase the quality of Florida's educational system. From the original timeline released with Executive Order 1932, there are 2 deadlines still pending. These include the release of the revised course code directories and course descriptions. This has the greatest impact on secondary mathematics because while Algebra 1 and Geometry course overviews have been identified, the 9 through 12 standards that will be included in those and all other 9 through 12 courses have not yet been identified. Additionally, the standards that will be included in Grade 6 Advanced Math and Grade 7 Advanced Math have not yet been identified either. Those were originally slated to be released in April or May of 2020. While we are awaiting those state release of instructional materials alignments and also the specifications. While we are awaiting these 2 pieces of information, the benchmarks, which are really called the standards now, but they call them benchmarks, were approved by the state on February 12th of 2020. Next, we will discuss the key changes for ELA and mathematics before reviewing the state's timeline for implementation and the implications for OCPS. I won't read all those to you, but basically, while we have a lot more analyzing to do, the major shifts from the language arts standards to the best ELA standards include each grade level now includes a list of books and/or novels and complex texts. This includes book lists for civics. Rubrics are now available for oral communication to address language skills. While foundational standards are continued in elementary, foundations of literacy standards have also been included in grades 6 through 12 to provide targeted instruction for students who struggle with reading. There's a new standard within the reading strand that is titled Reading Across Genres, and there is a focus on specific literacy periods in grades 6 through 12. Overarching K-12 ELA skills that run through every component of language arts have been identified. K-12 mastery standards represent end-of-the-year goals for students in foundations, reading, communication, and vocabulary. Finally, benchmarks, again, they're the standards, they just changed the name, are accompanied with clarification statements for the terminology used. Again, while we're still reviewing some of the details by grade level or by each course, the major shifts from the Florida standards to the best mathematics standards include identifying mathematical thinking and reasoning standards that clarify expectations for students processing in math. Content benchmarks for each grade level include some shifting of concepts from one grade level to another as compared to the current standards. All content benchmarks include clarifications regarding expectations. These clarifications include content limits for grade level and instructional focus recommendations. Glossaries and formulas are included as part of the standards document to provide additional clarification when planning. The new standards also define expectations regarding building student number sense during grades K through 8. The major shifts from mathematics standards also include identifying mathematical thinking and reasoning standards that clarify expectations for student processing in math. Content benchmarks for each grade level include some shifting of concepts from one grade level to another. I've already talked about that. Again, we're still waiting some course descriptions in mathematics standards around Algebra 1 and Geometry. The most recent transition timeline, and we continue to use this graphic because I think it's the best one that we use this consistently because I think it basically defines in very clear terms the rollout plan. The most recent transition timeline released by the state outlines the implementation for professional development, standards, instructional materials, and statewide assessments by year. As we adhere to this timeline, there are specific implications for us as a district and department as outlined in the next slide. Our overall goal in this implementation is to provide support for a smooth transition for schools, teachers, and students while adhering to the state implementation timeline. As we consider this transition, the Curriculum and Digital Learning Department is focused in two main areas: curriculum and professional development. While we also collaborate with research, accountability, and grants departments to ensure our resources and support align with updated assessment information once it is released, and we begin new assessments in the school year 2022-23. Between now and then, we are focused on ensuring we have aligned instructional materials and have provided adequate training and support for successful implementation. We have several contacts for our department. I know we've talked with some of you over the course of the standards alignment discussion and given feedback. And so any other questions in regards to content, we're more than welcome to provide additional detail.
Thank you, Mr. Bixler. So we had questions from some board members around the best standards and how we were going to be moving forward. We will post this to our website because we have parents who have questions as well. Clearly, it cannot be turned on a dime. It won't happen overnight. We've got training that will be necessary, revisions to curriculum materials, and then a revision to the testing as well. But we wanted to give you a baseline and make that available, as several of you had requested, so that parents have some idea of what we believe our initial assessment is of the new best standards. Secondly, wanted to make you aware that on March 25th, my Superintendent Student Advisory Council will be meeting and speaking with both the American Heart Association and American Lung Association over at Edgewater High School, having a little gathering from 3:30 to 5 o'clock, and the topic is vaping. So very excited. If you recall our student council, they build campaigns, they have peer-to-peer interaction. We believe they can have quite an impact on our young people around vaping. And they're going to hear from some experts from American Heart and American Lung Association over at Edgewater. You are certainly welcome to attend as well. It will be from 3:30 to 5 p.m. at Edgewater on March 25th. And then the topic that most people are interested in is regarding our latest information that we've gained from our conference calls around COVID-19. Very pleased with the Commissioner and the Chancellor in the last couple of calls. We had a call both yesterday and two calls today. Previously, as I mentioned, the Governor, along with the Surgeon General, had a conference call to share with superintendents. A couple of really important facts. Number one, we are still considered at low risk here in the state of Florida, and young people are the most resilient population when it comes to COVID-19. And so what was strongly emphasized on the last call was that we try to keep people from panicking. For the K-12 environment, we have the most resilient population in young people. Certainly our employees need to be watched closely, but Florida is still considered low risk. Number two, we had quite a bit of discussion and asked for clarification, and the Commissioner did provide that on the conference call. There'll be something coming down with more details in writing, but we were told specifically there is a strong recommendation not to have air travel for our young people going on field trips. And so you saw the information that went out both to schools and to parents and to the media. We have suspended, along with all of our other Central Florida superintendents, suspended field trips out of state that require air travel. And so all of those schools have been contacted. They've been working on those cancellations. We are certainly working with them as well. We have a couple that have creatively considered maybe they would take a bus instead if it's not too long of a trip. Certainly discourage long bus rides with our young people, but in general, the prohibition we put in place is for air travel out of state, field trips that require air travel. Secondly, we were very pleased that the Department of Education is pursuing virtual school support for students and young people should we ever get to a point that we needed to have instruction taking place remotely. Information will be forthcoming where they are going to have training for up to 10,000 teachers who can voluntarily go through the training, a 6-hour training, to be able to log on to Florida Virtual Schools platform and help with that remote training. The good news for Orange County Public Schools is all of our high schools and middle schools and a good portion of our elementary schools already have 1-to-1 ratio for their digital technology, and they have teachers who are well equipped and accustomed to using our platform for instruction and communicating with students and gathering assignments. Teaching and learning under the very capable leadership of Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Schuler, certainly Rob Bixler, who you just heard from, are building our plans, our programs in place should we have a need for remote instruction. Again, I want to emphasize we are still considered at low risk and that we have the most resilient population in our young people. But we are making plans, and the state is aggressively making plans so that we are prepared. Looking at other questions and getting answers around providing meals to our young people, so many of them that would depend on having good meal plans from the school that they attend. We have some provisions, some creative things going in place for that. The governor's declaration of an emergency state certainly helps us be able to attain more flexibility around those needs as well. Lastly, it was emphasized, and we cannot say it often enough, that we want people to certainly regulate their own situations health-wise. Any employee, any adult who is sick needs to stay home. Any young person who is not feeling well, who is sick, certainly we ask the parents to keep them home as well. But it is the flu-like symptoms and exposure, cannot stress this enough, flu-like symptoms and exposure to COVID-19 that would place people in the necessity of quarantine or of voluntarily isolating themselves. Flu-like symptoms alone do not require voluntary isolation or staying at home for 14 days. I tell my cabinet, run a temperature and you've not been exposed, you can probably stay at home and get over your illness and not have to be quarantined or self-isolated for 14 days. But if there are flu-like symptoms and potential exposure, then those individuals would still be asked for self-isolation for 14 days. The symptoms in general become apparent after 5 days of exposure, so that 14-day window, all of our health officials still believe that would be sufficient. In the meantime, folks have asked questions about employees and whether or not there's a prohibition there. We are following the CDC guidelines on a case-by-case basis if employees need to travel for some professional means. But in the meantime, we will review those as well. In general, CDC gives us the best information around adult behavior, and we depend on adults to make good decisions. At the end of the day, if the travel is taken anyway, if someone goes on a cruise, board members, and they somehow end up on a cruise that gets into trouble around potential exposure, then they come under the CDC's guidelines for re-entry into the workplace. Happy to certainly, and we have both Mr. Pacheco and I just drew a blank. Doug. Give me the last name. Doug Tripp. Mr. Pacheco and Doug Tripp are available as well. We've activated all of our emergency procedures. They are meeting on a regular basis to make sure we stay on top of that. Board members, members of the public, parents, employees can always refer to our website. We have all the links available there for you as well. Want to encourage you once again, the best prevention is around keeping your hands away from your face. That is, those are easy transmission points, and washing your hands regularly with the happy birthday song. As Ms. Gould reminded us, 20 seconds of washing your hands is the best preventative measure that can be put in place for COVID-19. We will keep you posted. I know you got 2 or 3 emails from me today. As soon as I got off of that conference call, I want to recognize the other superintendents in the Central Florida region for working so closely together so that we would be timely and consistent in how we share that information. That is my update, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for so quickly making sure that the board is in the loop with the communications that you've had. I think that's, for me, it's been very reassuring to see those communications coming across. So thank you. Dr. Gordon.
Yes, Dr. Jenkins, I know she's getting all of the information from other superintendents and other counties and all throughout the United States, because she has that type of connection. And But I just want to ask a question here, because we are not getting all of the information. We know that we're not. We're not getting all, not from us, not from Orange County School Board. We're getting as much as we can get based on what they are giving us. But some of us have relatives and family members and graduates of our public school here in high places. And there's some data that a lot of us have been sent, and just say, be very careful, be aware, these are where the virus is attacking, and we're not getting it on our local channels. They may be getting it on cable or whatever. But I just want to say we all have school board members that we keep in touch with, and they're connecting with us on a national level. And several of the school board members in various counties have indicated to us, what is happening, and we know about the little bit that is happening in Florida. But however, some of the counties close by has had to actually close their schools. And what I'm saying, say if we did get a notice that, like hurricane, are we going to follow the procedures just like, when we get the hurricane and we know how to lock down? Okay, and I did hear you talk about the digital divide with the children, and our children are prepared that they can get in there because a lot of universities are shutting down, and the universities throughout are actually doing virtual, and they have asked the professors not to come. I'm just concerned because, I was on my way to Fulton County, and I sent you that notice. They told me don't come because of what has happened in Fulton County schools. And that one of the faculty member actually, and it was upset. Well, the faculty member came down, but the parents were very upset because of a lack of it. So how do we plan once whoever is supposed to give you what they're supposed to give you? I don't know who's supposed to give it to you. I'm hoping it's the state of Florida that would give it, that the medical department would feed it down to you so that you could feed it to us and we could get it to our parents. About this, that there's not, and I know we have not had a lack of communication under your leadership, and I thank you, but it's very close. Florida is the less of all of the states, but if you get any kind of report from anybody in the medical field that has access to this, you could see where it's all surrounding. So what I'm trying to say, Dr. Mike Looney, you know him well. We all know him. He's the superintendent in Fulton County, Georgia, and it has hit them. And a lot of faculty members didn't really know what to do. They didn't know. They said if to call 911 or get the person to the hospital, and that teacher's in that school. What procedures do we have in place that will protect the faculty, staff, and students if we got a call today to say lockdown?
Mr. Tripp is coming to the podium in case he needs to answer beyond my response. But we have general protocols. If there is an active case, a confirmed case, our local health department would be engaged immediately, and the state department, health department, as well as the Department of Education, will work very closely with us through all of those protocols. Mr. Tripp, what would you add?
Board Chair, Board Member Superintendent Jenkins, we are in weekly contact with the Florida Department of Health, Orange County. Dr. Pino is directly involved in those conversations. And we have day-to-day contact at the operational level with the Florida Department of Health, Orange County. We would anticipate that if there were a case that were impacting Orange County Public Schools, that Dr. Pino's office would contact Student Health Services, and that would initiate our response protocols for the district. We've had plans in place since 2016 for infectious diseases and public health emergencies. So we're in good position with the strategic framework on how we'd respond. As of January of this year, we formed a COVID-19 work group that consisted of a variety of different members of district staff, and they have been meeting regularly to plan for this episode, this type of event. And we have engaged also our executive policy group that consists of our chiefs who report directly to the superintendent. We provide regular briefings to them as well. Again, if an event were to happen, the Florida Department of Health would advise us, that would enact our plans, and then we'd move forward with certain actions depending on what the circumstances might be. This is a very dynamic situation, unlike a hurricane. We don't know where that transmission may be coming from. It could be coming from a staff member, a visitor, a student. So each one of those scenarios may require a different response. The Florida Department of Health, Orange County, has advised us that it will currently is the school board's decision on whether to close a school or not close a school, but they will provide advice and guidance to help us reach those decisions consistent with our policies and then the expectations around public health.
Okay, with that in mind, let me just say something, because remember, we had a discussion here about the pulse. Well, pulse, but we also had a discussion when we talked about those parents we met at the national meeting, and Dr. Jenkins immediately got with you all and brought them down, and they gave us a lot of tricks of the trade of what we needed to do to prepare for active shooter in the school. That was very, very helpful. The colleagues that I have in Fulton County said that they are now trying to work and identify the students and staff that came in touch with the teacher. So what I'm trying, an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. So we don't want to be running around like Fulton County. Oh God, don't let me do it. I'm in a school every day with kids. So if one of our faculty, now they immediately closed that school, okay, in Fulton County, Georgia, where that teacher came from. But what parents were saying within that area was, well, that's what those parents told us. Then we need to notify them. Where do we meet? Where do we go? How do we pick up our kids? It was so many things that they told us. I think Pam and I were in that national meeting when those parents were telling us the things that did not quite go right. We don't want to be identifying the kids after the fact. I would like to know, what plan do we have if it strikes any one of our schools? What's step one? What is step two? What do we do? Where do we go? Who do we contact? Because right now they're saying, oh, so-and-so was in our class, so-and-so, and we got a good thing because every child has a schedule and everybody's supposed to be in class, okay? And we monitor our halls to see who's out there. But I would like to know, if it happens in this building, where do we go? What do we do? Do we stay where we are? Do we get that person out? I just want to know, how can we all know what to do? Because think about what happened with Pulse.
Yes. So it depends on, again, the scenario, but I'll give you one and we can kind of go through it. So if a student was manifesting symptoms, so they were
an employee.
Or an employee at the school, but in particular student, we would immediately send them to the health center at the school where they would have their temperature checked and they'd be assessed. If the staff member believed that student should be removed from the school, the parents would be contacted and the student would be removed. If we felt that those kind of conditions raised to the level, and there's certain thresholds that we have to pay attention to. So an example would be the temperature or an upper respiratory reaction. We would contact the health department and contact them and discuss with them. We would also talk to the parent and advise that they go and take their student to a medical provider. Medical providers then have tests that they can run to assess whether it's the common flu or something else, and they can also seek guidance from the Florida Department of Health. Typically in these cases, though, what we're going to do is we're going to receive the information from the Florida Department of Health. Preventatively, if we do have, we identify somebody that is demonstrating certain types of physical symptoms, we can provide guidance to them on how that they can take care of it. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and it's very circumstantial based on what is happening around us. We have a heavy reliance on the Florida Department of Health because they are charged with the responsibility of advising school districts when there is a case in our schools. It could come from a staff member, it could come from a visitor, or it could come from a student themselves.
Okay, we have over, how many, Dr. Jenkins? 25,000 employees and about over 210,000 students. Where would they go if they needed the test?
So typically an employee would go to their medical provider.
But you can't get them.
Excuse me?
You cannot always get them.
Yes, you could go
But
to the
I'm
health
saying, have we given that information? That's easily said. Have y'all gone to the health department? I do in my neighborhood to get a shot or something when I'm getting ready to go overseas. Have y'all been there lately? No, that is not what we want to look for. I don't think that's the way Dr. Jenkins wanted. Is there any way that we can provide, just like we pass out everything else, and the city and the county pass out who to call in the case of emergency, is there any way that we could get in the hands of parents a flyer of the centers within their area that would be good contact?
I believe we can, and we can contact Florida Department of Health and receive that information and communicate that out through our communications division.
Right, because that is not the time to be running around. And, you know, and I'm telling you what's going on there. It's not a happy camper thing for them, because there were teachers and children in that school, and that school is closed right now. So, Dr. Jenkins, I know that you have given safety procedures every time they have to get a shot, everybody knows where to go to get a shot. They won't get in school. So if this happens and they're not feeling well, you cannot get in your doctor's office. And God forbid trying to get in the health clinic. I've done that.
We can do that.
All right. Thank you so very much.
All right. Member Gould, to close us out, I think.
Yeah, not to belabor this, but it might be helpful just to let employees know that there would be a holding area or a call area, and there's a cleaning protocol, all things that have been in various memos already. But, you know, the new standards that came out today for that care and will evolve over the next 3 days as tests come online from the commercial vendors, and then there will be specific locations for testing that come out. I think maybe there's just like not a news that you can use, but something else, you know, health update that they know when they get that, that's the latest and greatest.
And Mr. Tripp, the superintendent may have covered this, but we have identified where in each of our schools, if a student is suspected of where they would be contained until their parents arrive. Okay.
Yes.
And a handoff process.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
As I mentioned earlier, that would be in the clinic at the school. That's where they would be taken and held until their parents arrive.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
The students would be taken to the clinic within the schools and held until parents arrive, and then they would be handed off to their parents.
Okay. And then there would be yeah. Okay. And to Dr. Gordon's point, I think also the best that we can do to start trying to figure out how we would identify after the fact all the interactions between students and teachers. Good for us to kind of maybe even rehearse what that process looks like. So, Member Byrd.
I have something. Are we done with this topic?
We are done with this topic. Be done with this topic, and you move us on to the next one because we still have an executive session.
I know we do. I'm just real quick, 2 seconds. I just wanted to give a shout out to Laura Gilbert because I went to the Food Nutrition Services food show today, and I had a great time. That event is just, if you've never had a chance to go take a peek, is so cool. Yeah. It's like I don't know, like the Food and Wine Festival without the wine. It's just, there's vendors all around the cafeteria, probably 100 vendors, wow. I say, all handing out little samples of food. It's so organized. The kids go to each section, sample the food, and then go to the iPads and put in their ratings of the food. And, you know, no food is selected for the menu unless it gets at least 70% approval from the kids. And I spoke to the kids. They were having a great time. We had elementary all the way through high school. Kids kids from all over the district were there, and it was just a tremendous event, and it was so fun to be there. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to her, because her and her staff, because they did a great job.
Awesome. I'm so glad you took a minute to share that with us. And Dr. Jenkins, touche. I love it. All right. If there's no further business to come before this board, we are going to adjourn in just a minute, but let me hear from Ms. Enval first to make her announcement.
I believe in your script.
Oh my gosh. It's in my script?
I think so.
Okay. Take that back. We're not adjourning.
We have to commence it in an open meeting. Is it there?
Pursuant to...
That's it.
Okay, thank you. But we did adjourn.
Well, no, you have to open this in a public meeting. We will.
I know, but we
adjourn
just
after.
adjourned the other meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. But
we
we
hope
did
this one.
officially adjourn our regular meeting.
Angie Gallo has left the meeting.
Good idea, Angie. I'm with you.
It's official.
I'm ready to go too. Okay, pursuant to section 286.011, subsection 8, Florida statutes, the School Board of Orange County, Florida will meet in an executive session to discuss the pending litigation of Craig Lilly versus Orange County School Board, case number 2018-CA-010784-0. The statute requires us to open the meeting in the public and then adjourn our closed executive session. It is estimated that the attorney-client session will take approximately 60 minutes. Those attending will be myself, Teresa Jacobs, Chair, Pam Gould, Vice Chair, Angie Gallo, School Board Member, Joanna Lopez, School Board Member, Linda Cobert, School Board Member, Kat Gordon, Karen Kester Dental, Melissa Bird, all of them School Board Members, Dr. Barbara Jenkins, Superintendent, Amy Anval, School Board's General Counsel, John Palmarini, Associate General Counsel, Sharon Henry, Esquire, and Court Reporter. Once the executive session is over, we will reconvene the public meeting by opening the door, and with no further business, we'll conclude the public meeting. Thank you. We will now adjourn to Conference Room E for the executive session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Enval.